Yeah, our movie is based on a true story about a couple in the 80s who sailed into a Class 5 hurricane and then were forced to deal with the aftermath of that. It's a story of survival just as much as it's a story about love. I play the character of Tammy, who was 23 at the time, and through the relationship that she shared with Richard, who Sam plays, she was able to find the inner will to survive a pretty harrowing situation.
I was gonna say, he's 100% a risk.
Yeah.
I think if you're a sailor, you're a risk taker. I mean, it's a very dangerous way of living, and he is someone who's done that, you know, many times before. He has literally sailed halfway around the world. He built his boat at the beginning of this movie, the boat you see him on. He built that by hand in South Africa, and sort of managed to get himself to Tahiti from America. You know, he's someone who's used to being in his own company. And I think playing someone who I think there's so many similarities between myself and him that it was easy to draw inspiration from my own life and my own experiences. But I class myself as someone who, you know, takes risks, but is maybe not a risk taker. But I think he lives more on the edge than I do, and you know, I can't help but kind of admire someone like that.
We had to not eat a lot. We both were physically active and did a bit of training before we began filming. For me, to build upper body strength, just because being a sailor requires so much of that, and I was quite weak in my arms. But there was because they were stuck at sea for so long, we had to drop weight incrementally to match the story. And it was about a month for myself of no dinner, and then 2 weeks of basically a can of salmon, 2 egg yolks, and some steamed broccoli. And that was your diet for most of the shoot.
Yeah, well, I just got off the back of filming a film called The Nightingale, in which it was the heaviest I've ever been. I'd put on weight for this role, and I had like I think about 4 weeks between the end of that and the beginning of, like, literally the day one of filming. And I remember arriving in Fiji and sitting down for breakfast with Balthazar, and he was very, very, very polite in trying to ask me to look more like a sailor. You know, I think there were elements of my figure at that moment I knew this before, by the way, so there's none of that. He told me to lose weight. I knew that I needed to lose weight. I needed to look like I lived on a boat, you know? So I think there was, my diet sort of began the second I stepped foot in Fiji. So mine was much more progressive, whereas Shailene's was drastic. You know, she was sort of eating and then all of a sudden just stopped. Whereas I was never eating. So I was fine with it by the end.
We filmed a little bit over 90% of the film on the open water, and some days it was only a 20-minute motorboat ride to the sailboat, and then other days it was a good 2 hours to get to the sailboat. Our marine team would start at about 2 to 3 a.m. to slowly bring the sailboat out on the water, and we would go meet them at around sunrise. And I mean, when you're filming in an environment like that, you really, truly are at the mercy of Mother Nature, and you get everything from the magical experience of being surrounded by hundreds of dolphins and the awe that comes with that raw beauty, to the strong current and the high winds and the seasickness. We really experienced every aspect of nature, I feel like, that you possibly could, and relationship with nature, anger, excitement, reverence, bitterness. That was very special.
Ho girato il mondo per trovarti.